What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Unsolved Enigmas. It's your boy Aaron and my lovely wife Nicole beside me. Sorry about the hiatus, but we had family in town and we had to take them out shooting and this, that, and the third, and shit's been hectic. So we finally back at y'all. We wanted to touch bases on some new shit. We got some new videos coming up, so let's get into it. Today we're going to talk about the Gannon Stauch case. It's pretty known nationwide. We're back in Colorado on this one, of course, but this one hit home a little bit because it's not far from us. It's literally in our same city, Colorado Springs.
Their house is like 20 minutes away from ours.
Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. Now, Gannon's father was Eugene Al Stauch, and his stepmom was Letecia, which she had a daughter from a previous relationship named Harley, excuse me. And Gannon's mother was named Landon, and then also Landon and Al had a daughter named
Lena.
Was it Lena? Yeah, Lena.
Yeah,
Lena. So all of them, well, Lena, Harley, Gannon, Letecia, and Al all lived in Colorado Springs. Landon still lived in South Carolina, which is where all of them are originally from.
So we're going to give a basic timeline of events on what happened, and then we'll go into detail on everything because it's a lot of information and it's kind of goes all over the place throughout the case.
Because she's all over the place.
Yeah.
And not to mention,
Letecia.
This trial is
just
ongoing.
Started.
Yeah, it's ongoing. It just started and all that stuff. So we will be dipping into that a little bit, and then also we'll be talking more about it in the future when we get more updates.
Once the case wraps up and they have a verdict and all of that, we'll go through it all because I'm assuming at that point they'll have released a lot of the information that hasn't been released yet. We had access to, of course, everything that's been on TV and on the news, and then also a 32-page arrest report kind of just had all of the evidence of why they were arresting Letecia and what evidence they had. So I'm sure there's lots more information that we don't yet know, but like we said, I can't wait to find out. Yeah, me too. Like we said,
bury this bitch.
I hope so. We'll do We'll do an update on all of that once it's all closed out. So it starts out on January 27th of 2020. Letecia called into El Paso County's...
Which is, like 14, 15 months ago?
Yeah. Into El Paso County Sheriff's Office and reported Gannon missing. She said that he had left to go play with some friends and between 3:15 and 4 p.m. and hadn't showed back up at home, and he was originally reported as a juvenile runaway.
So January 30th, about 3 days later after the call, Gannon's disappearance then was classified as a runaway.
I need Harley.
And turned into a
because they want you to verify was Gannon at home after the hike.
And
because you didn't go to the hike, but you came home from work.
So there was
much snow.
Yeah, they were basically saying anybody who was outside, who would have been outside.
No, just answer the question. Yes, you came home from work and you can verify Gannon.
Especially somebody that young.
Yeah, he's only 11 when he went missing.
So, I mean, I think even then that, because it was so much snow and it was so cold.
And it just kept
we have like a lot of homeless people out here, so they did something to where they were like putting a lot of them indoors. If like a lot of gyms were open up, they'll like put a bunch of them in there and stuff like that because it was too cold and it was too wet. You know what I mean? It was feet of snow.
And it was awful timing too because he was announced missing and then it was like snow for at least a week.
Bipolar.
I mean, there was inches and inches and inches of snow. So
that's what she said.
It made it really hard for the search crews to search for him.
True.
Letecia Stauch had done an interview with one of our local news stations, KKTV.
Gang.
And
that's the squad. We check y'all out every time, though. We out here.
And she got a lot of
2Ks, not 3.
She got a lot of flack from the interview because she basically focused the entire interview on herself and how everybody was going to owe her an apology.
We're gonna leave a clip of that right after we're done talking about this.
How everybody owed her an apology and poor her, and she didn't even really say anything.
Bruh, she thought she was off camera, bro. She thought she was off camera, right? So she's sitting there talking, and she was like, And the dude kept wanting her to talk or whatever. She was like, oh, am I still on? Am I still on? What do you want me to say? And like just saying like off the wall shit like that, like bro, like
wreck.
Yeah. Everything was trying. You could tell she was trying to sound scripted, but then she started getting in her feelings and stuff like that.
And getting mad. And like I joined Facebook groups. We followed this closely, and because we have kids, and this is
my son was like, he's probably like 3-4 years younger than Gannon.
Yeah, and we live in the same city, so it was really close to home. So I joined Facebook
Colorado
groups.
Springs, by the way.
I followed everything I could follow on this case, and at first I'm like, well, maybe she didn't do it. There's a lot of times where the family is painted in a bad picture and they end up being innocent. And then we saw this interview, and I'm like, she did it. No doubt in my mind she did it. And it would just go on to snowball from there on all of the things that she did to look guilty.
We moved on a military move, and I didn't finish out my contract, so I gave up my license in that state. It had nothing to do with any criminal activity, or any of those things. And it just got blown out of proportion on my professional status. The message for Gannon I have is, Gannon, when you get here, you'll be able to truly tell what happened. And then I really hope I get a sincere apology from everyone who has made all those things, especially from my husband. My husband's ex-wife is living in our home, and of course I'm not coming home to do these things and to help with the family when I was kind of like told I couldn't.
We'll get into all that later.
So yeah, so
I'm about to say you're getting off track, babe.
She had done.
She can't stand this.
Oh, I can't stand her. She's just vile. She ended up going off on Facebook after the interview about all of the flack she got from the interview. She's since, well, obviously she's in jail now, but she soon after that deleted all of her social media. So the family had been receiving death threats since all of this started.
Not the family, just her.
No, it was the whole family.
Al too?
Yeah, because nobody knew what was going on at that point. And people
me personally, what time do you have in your day to where you can sit down? You know what? I'm gonna just write me a death threat to these motherfuckers. Like, you have no idea what these people are going through. And honestly, Al had nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
So for somebody to send this man death threats,
you
know what I mean?
Awful.
Like, bruh.
The people
that shit would just like infuriate me, bro.
I'm still in the Gannon groups because they still talk about the case and it's ongoing and everything. And from the start, just some of the stuff that people said in those groups, and it was awful. Yeah. So they had received death threats, and at this point, this is around February 3rd, there was thousands of search hours into looking for Gannon. Crazy to me is this is right before COVID started.
Yep.
And it seems like miles apart.
It damn sure do. I mean, you think about it. What's his name? Tiger King.
That was right at the beginning. That was right after this.
Yeah, it was like right a month after this. It was like right at the beginning of March. Right now.
Time is like gone.
Ooh, they should put it back on Netflix.
Is it off Netflix?
I think so.
Anyways. They had aerial drone footage, search and rescue canines, the FBI Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Unit, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, the Colorado Springs Police Department, and
search and rescue.
Yep, and locals also helped.
Now, big shout out to our search and rescue teams out here.
Seriously,
with the mountains we have up here, and then with
just
a lot of the terrain. You know what I mean? Like, we got literally like 20 minutes, not even 20 minutes, but we got all like the Rockies are right there. So when I worked up in Pikes Peak, there was a lot of people ended up going missing. You slip the wrong way, you go down, and there's nobody there to see you. You know what I mean? Search and rescue out there for 24 hours straight.
And it's so, just with the terrain out here, it's just so easy for people to disappear, which is scary to say, but
even in the plains, because we got like where we are, it's kind of like a sweet spot. You know what I mean? We got the mountains right there, and then we got further south or further east, we got all the plains. Yeah, you know what I mean. So, but in between, I mean, you got those.
So much stuff. A lot. And between the weather and between the terrain, it's just, they had a rough task on their hands, and they let locals help up to a certain point, but then once it can be tricky once they start to find stuff. So after a certain point, they weren't letting locals search any longer. I always have the yawns.
Oh no. February 4th, a neighbor came forward with surveillance footage of Letecia leaving with Gannon earlier that day and then returning later on alone without Gannon. So he took the footage to Al, which, you know what I mean, shout out to him for that. But Al saw the video and then he just broke down crying, saying that she lied. It wasn't like the time wasn't right. She lied about the time. He wasn't with a friend. You know what I mean? And it was just like all downhill from there. And like against her side, you know what I mean?
And she had also went off on Facebook about this, claiming that the neighbor was paid to release this video and stuff. And then,
wow.
But then somebody asked the news...
Pay her to release it? That means the video was true then.
Yeah, but then the news network, somebody asked the news network and they were like, we didn't pay anybody for this video. She looks stupid. I think it was shortly after that she deleted her stuff.
So the day after that, Landon, Al, and their 8-year-old daughter went on TV and they made a plea for Gannon to come home. And
I don't even have answers for my feelings other than I'm afraid. I'm afraid that I'll never hear his voice, that I'll never hear him run and say, "Mommy," that I'll never hear those corny jokes that he always tells every single day. He has to tell me a joke. He looks forward to telling me something silly. And I'm afraid that I may never see that again or hear it. I don't want to believe that because that means that I'm giving up hope, and I'm not giving up hope because my son is full of hope. So I'm urging anyone that has any leads, credible leads, if you're too afraid because you know something, a kid just doesn't disappear and no one sees him. It's not how this works. So if you have anything that's credible, if you're afraid, don't worry about it. Imagine my son, how afraid he is. Imagine how afraid Gannon is. So please call, please write. If you need to have someone else to do it for you, please do.
We see something or get information that just breaks our heart into a million pieces again. But through all this, just know that your thoughts and your prayers and your messages, keep them coming, because even if we don't respond, we are receiving them, and that has given us strength to get through this. And I do want to say I'm so proud of Lena, my little baby girl here, and of Landon, my children's mother. They've been so strong through this, stronger than I would have ever thought that I could have ever been, and I'm getting strength from them as well. As I said, please keep sending your thoughts and your prayers, because we are receiving them. And if you have any information at all that could help, please reach out to the El Paso County Sheriff's Office with only credible information, but any information that you think may help. Thank you so much. Your turn, baby.
It was rough to watch.
Yeah, it made me cry. It was very sad. Watch.
I had to get up and walk away, honestly.
It was sad. So as of February 16th, the police have received over 500 tips, and Gannon still hadn't been found. So
I can remember walking into work, and we had missing pictures of him all over our shop. Like inside the workshop where all the construction workers were, where all of us in the office, we had them. We had them things everywhere.
Because right around the time this happened, there was a lot of missing people all of a sudden. Because like a week before that, a teenager got missing. They found her. So then when this happened, I'm like, oh, hopefully they find him quickly, just like they did with the last one. And then they didn't. On March 2nd, Letecia was arrested and held without bond in Horry County, South Carolina. So she had left Colorado. She was charged with first-degree murder of a child under 12 by a person of trust, child abuse resulting in the death of a child, tampering with the deceased human body, and tampering.
So I urge media one more time just to hold off on questions until we know that this person, the stepmom that I even trusted, that she will pay 100% for this heinous thing she done.
March 8th, earlier that day, they did this car meet basically, but it was called the Cruise for Gannon, and which I thought it was really cool. You know what I mean? He wasn't found yet, but the community, we couldn't help out because the police didn't want anybody involved in the search anymore at that point. So they wanted the community, you know what I mean, all of us, we were trying to figure out, which not me, they all were trying to figure out something to do. And then when I came across it, We thought it was a really good idea, so I wanted to take my son. And him being 6, I had to explain to him, you know what I mean, what was going on and stuff like that. And it took me a little bit to try to figure out how, but once I broke it down to him and I explained to him what was going on and stuff like that, he really understood, and he actually felt sympathy. You know what I mean? He felt sad for Gannon and his family and stuff, which I didn't. I don't like my kids, you know what I mean, growing up being, you know what I mean, too fast, but I wanted him to open his eyes to, you know what I mean, the stuff that goes on today. And I felt like that was one good way to do it. You know what I mean? So him rode over to my friend Brody's crib. Shout out to Brody. He had the sweet Camaro SS. You know what I mean? Nice. Sounds nice. You know what I mean? So we took that out there, and it was probably close to about 1,000 cars out there. You know what I mean? A whole lot of people. You know what I mean? All different walks of life, all different types of cars from all different cultures everywhere. And we all came together to, you know, people had shirts. I mean, there were food trucks out there, and a lot of the proceeds that were going towards helping, you know what I mean, their families and stuff like that, which I thought was really, really, really big. You know what I mean? Like, people had their cars decked out. Like, that shit was dope. I'm not gonna lie.
I think Al went too.
Yeah, I think Al was there. I didn't see him. Like I said, it was. Imagine how many people were out there when we tell you it was that many cars. Yeah. You know what I mean? So we pretty much shut an entire a whole shopping mall parking lot completely down. Like, the only thing was open was the Starbucks. And you know what I mean? Like, that shit was lit.
That's how the whole community was. Lorton Ranch, where they lived, all the neighbors changed their lights to blue. It was lighted up blue for Gannon.
Even though in March 11th, when Letecia first appeared in court, the prosecutors and authorities said that they filed over 100 search warrants to obtain evidence and stuff, and they were confident that Letecia was the suspect in the case of, you know what I mean, of missing Gannon. So March 20th, authorities said that they found Gannon's body in Pace, Florida, near the Escambia River Bridge. El Paso County DA filed 9 additional charges. First-degree murder after deliberation and 8 counts of committing a crime of violence. Now, I'm not necessarily sure what those 8 counts entail. We'll probably get more into that.
Find out more as it goes on.
I didn't see anything relating up to those, but the first-degree murder, when they found him out there, especially after she ran, they knew off the rip that she, you know what I mean, she had to have planned this. There's no way.
So during the initial days before Gannon was found, Letecia made some awful comments on Facebook about Landon. She was trying to paint Landon out to be this awful mother. And again, making it all about petty stuff and stuff that had nothing to do with Gannon missing. And it just seems like she's making
it all about herself.
And she was more interested in stirring up drama than she was in working to find Gannon. Mm-hmm. She also participated in that interview that we were talking about, where she focused mostly on herself and what she felt was her mistreatment rather than focusing on Gannon.
Now, the cars, I'm going to read through the list, so if I look down, don't mind me. So the cars that were involved were the red Nissan Frontier, which was Al's car. Then we had a black Volkswagen Tiguan. I believe that's how you pronounce it. That was Letecia's car. Then you had the white Jetta, which was Harley's car. And then you had, okay, now this is the parts where I gotta look. The silver Nissan Altima that Letecia, her aunt rented. So it was obtained by her. And then her aunt Brenda acquired it, which was utilized by Letecia from January 30th to February 1st. After her Tiguan was seized by the police, I believe that was the car she used to get to South Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. And then she rented a white Kia Rio from the 28th to the 29th. And this was the days after she reported him missing.
So Letecia was the last person to see Gannon alive. She was employed by the D20 school system in Colorado Springs. She does have a criminal record. She was convicted of communicating threats, unauthorized use of a motor vehicle in North Carolina, and she served 45 days in jail for that.
Damn, they do not play in Carolina.
Apparently not.
Unauthorized use of a vehicle.
Yeah, but it was communicating threats too, so I'm not sure what happened there. But she had a criminal record, which to me, I don't understand how she got a teaching job in Colorado with a criminal record.
Because they don't do national background checks. They just probably did statewide background checks.
That's ridiculous.
So also, she had a suspended teacher's license in North Carolina. She was just messing up all over the place. She just, I'm gonna call her can't get right. Shout out to Eric, you know what I'm talking about. So she filed unsustained claims, which were thrown out, of harassment, retaliations from the state board. Found that Mrs. Stauch breached her contract by engaging in unprofessional conduct, willfully neglecting her duties. This sounds like horrible. What was she doing? And failing to comply with provisions of her contract.
Al was deployed with the National Guard at the time of Gannon's disappearance.
Shout out to your service, bro.
Definitely. His alibi and timeline were corroborated, and he's been cooperative this entire time with the police. So obviously he was cleared.
Yeah, he was in Oklahoma, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think he was in Oklahoma.
So like we said, on January 27th, around 6:55 p.m., Letecia reported Gannon missing. And she said he was supposed to be home an hour prior and that she was unable to locate him at a friend's house.
Likely story. She didn't even go anywhere She didn't even go anywhere, let alone to any neighboring houses to even search for Gannon. She didn't even leave the comfort of her couch. She was unable to provide any location of the homes that his friends, so-called, stayed at. She couldn't even give any names of the kids. She's like, what's his name? You know what I'm talking about. Oh boy up the street.
She said in a text that she didn't keep up with his friends.
Yeah, there's so many of them. It's so many of them. I can't even, I just can't think about it. He was up the street. He said he was going to a friend's house, so I didn't even care. That's pretty much probably how it played out. She probably didn't even hear him leave out, if that did happen, which we all know that is not what happened.
So deputies responded to their address in Colorado Springs and were unable to find Gannon. They did a limited search of the home and took a report from Letecia.
So Letecia, of course, lied to investigators on multiple occasions, which, of course, she's a piece of shit. So she had an unexplained abnormal behavior, like renting a car when, she had a Volkswagen Tiguan, which is a pretty nice car. You know what I mean? It's an SUV, get around, all-wheel drive. You know what I mean? Let's see what else we had. She disconnected her cell phone from the cell phone network for an extended period of time. And it looked like ain't nothing happened when she did it. Suspect? I think so. Also, she falsely reported an alleged rape, which we will get into later on, and then just continuous amounts of abnormal patterns throughout the entire investigation. She constantly kept changing her story, which we will get into that in a little bit too. And I mean, of course, like we just said, he found her ass in South Carolina.
So she
Mind you, you're a prime suspect, and not to mention
even
your
if she
stepchild.
Yeah.
Your stepchild is missing, and you are the last person to see him. And the first thing you think of is to book town and haul ass?
Suspicious. Investigators believe that he was murdered by Letecia in the afternoon of January 27th, 2020 in his bedroom. Physical evidence supports a violent event in his room. There was blood spatter on the walls. There was enough blood to soak through his mattress, through the carpet, through the padding, and stain the concrete underneath. And it was just brutal.
Based on the evidence obtained, it was believed that Letecia carried, let me rephrase that, the body was carried through the house and then placed in Letecia's car. And then...
The Tiguan,
yeah. And then it was believed that she then, her or allegedly somebody else, then took the body on the evening of the 28th and placed his remains off of 105 in Douglas County, which is basically 105 is like we got 25, 105, and then
I didn't make the connection of 105.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So 25 is like right here going towards
That's our
Denver.
Interstate, our big
our huge interstate that goes all the way through Colorado, and then 105 you can get on and
like
Monument. And and it's not the interstate, but it's a highway, and it's a little more longer, but it's more rural. Like if in the wintertime they shut it down because there's no way if you get caught out there, you stuck out there.
Yeah.
So she had plenty of space to do what she had to do. You know what I mean? So her being out there on the evening, you know what I mean, and had no reason to be, then that automatically is suspicious to me. I took in that drive for work, and I hate that drive.
I love 105.
Yeah, but I don't love it at night with hauling a 40-foot trailer.
True.
Hard pass. Blood was then discovered in his bedroom, the garage, and on a piece of particle board off of Highway 105, which matched Gannon, which I'm not quite sure where they found it off of 105.
Douglas County.
Yeah, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, they're not going to tell people exactly where. So on Monday, January 27th, Gannon stayed home from school because he had been up the night before with a stomach ache. Letecia told the school that he'd be absent that day, and she called out of work. That morning,
likely story.
She had taken pictures of Gannon sleeping in his bed with his Nintendo Switch beside him. I'm thinking to send to Al because Al was deployed.
She probably did it to cover her ass.
To show that he was alive.
Yeah, or to make her he's homesick, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So his Switch supposedly was super important to him, and to this day it still hasn't been found.
Which kid it wouldn't be, you know what I mean? My son was heartbroken when his broke.
Letecia searched her phone on January 28th, can Nintendo find my Switch? Which police believe was to figure out if she disposed the Switch, if it was trackable. And they kind of gathered that she was trying to dispose of it to go along with the fact that he ran away and took, his prized possession with him. She's just trying to steer them away from her.
Video surveillance several homes away showed Letecia and Gannon leaving the house around 10:15 in the morning and on the 27th. And motion detectors in their home didn't register any motions between 10:15 that morning and around like 2:20, 2:30 p.m. that afternoon. Around the time, and that's when Letecia and Gannon ended up coming home. And her daughter, Lena was at school. And Harley was at work around that time, so Letecia had left her phone at home and didn't unlock it for over 30 minutes after she arrived home.
Even though they had been gone for a couple hours, she didn't check her phone at all. So around.
Wait a minute! Whoa! Who in their right mind leaves their phone at home for several hours? And not to mention, if they do, when they get home, they don't check to see if anybody called, any emergencies. Not to mention, you have an 8-year-old stepchild that could be at school and something could be wrong. Or not to mention, your daughter could be at work or something could have happened to her. You're not going to check your phone?
Exactly.
Boy, don't let me be a lawyer in that room. I'm going to just look at the judge like, bro, can we just go?
So at 12:06 p.m. that day, Al had texted Gannon, "Hey, buddy." Gannon replied at 1:21 p.m., "Can I play Zelda at least?" And Al replied, "Not today." At 1:43, a search on Gannon's phone was, quote, "Can my parent find my cell phone if it's off?" This was likely conducted by Letecia, and the phone was found at the house. She didn't dispose of it because phones are traceable.
Of course. So during the 30 minutes that she didn't play with her phone, during the 30 minutes from between she got home and she didn't touch her phone, or she ended up touching her phone or whatever, the surveillance system, the motion detectors inside the house, which I never really thought of doing. You know what I mean? But it registered a huge amount of motion, both upstairs and downstairs. So
Like way more than
yeah,
usual.
somebody was probably running around frantic. So Lena then returned home from school around 3:15, and she told police when she got home, Letecia told her that Gannon was asleep in her room and to go outside and play.
And that she couldn't see Gannon.
And she couldn't see Gannon, but I guess he was sick.
So around 3:55 p.m., Al texts Gannon again, "Hey buddy," and it doesn't show that it was read until 7:40 p.m. And at this point, Gannon had likely been murdered already. Harley arrived home from work around 4:42 and picked up Lena, and Letecia texted her and asked her to pick up carpet cleaner, trash bags, and baking soda.
Okay, carpet cleaner, we already know what that's for. Baking soda, okay, it could be used for anything, but it's definitely used to pull blood stains and scents and smells and stuff. Like if my daughter, when she peed in the bed, we'll clean it, then we'll sprinkle baby soda on there to pull all the smell in it.
Baking soda, not baby soda.
Baking soda, and then we'll vacuum it all up. Same thing, you can be done with blood. So when the police arrived to take the missing persons report, Letecia's Volkswagen was backed into the garage. It was suspicious because Gannon's blood was found below the area where the rear hatch would be. So what I'm wondering is, was Gannon in her car at that time? If so, if y'all saw blood, why didn't y'all check the car?
They didn't see the blood then. They didn't see the blood then.
Okay.
This is just, if her car had been backed in and there was blood in it, where the blood was found in the garage, it lines up with the trunk of her car.
Okay, I got you.
So, on the morning of January 28th, Letecia rented a Kia Rio in Colorado Springs and picked Al up. Nothing was wrong with her Volkswagen, and at this point, it had not yet been seized. It was parked in...
What'd you say? I didn't want to put no miles on it.
Yeah.
You didn't even live that far from the airport.
Right? So, it ended up that it was parked in Colorado Springs short-term parking until around 7 p.m. on the 28th. Letecia had told Al that she was concerned about putting miles on her Volkswagen Tiguan lease, which is why she rented the car. I think that they were going to be driving around looking for Gannon at this point, so...
She leased a car? Oh,
yeah, the car's leased, so the more miles you put on it, the lower the value goes.
Okay, I can understand that. But it's not like she drove to Denver Airport. Exactly. Denver Airport is over an hour away, so I can get that. Colorado Springs Airport, regardless if you live in Fountain, Larson Ranch, or where we live, you can get to Colorado Springs Airport in like 15 minutes.
She thought they were going to drive around searching for Gannon.
Even still.
Yeah, I know. Still.
Who cares?
It doesn't make any sense is the point. So...
the time it would have taken you to look for that, to rent that car and do all that, that's time taken away from looking for your kid.
Searching for him, yep.
So all that none of that makes sense to me.
So she only ended up putting 71 miles on the Kia. She told Al that the Tiguan was parked near an elementary school and would not give him the exact location. It was suspected that the Tiguan either had Gannon's remains inside or there was evidence inside, but there was no evidence found in the Kia. It really makes me wonder if he suspected it right off the bat.
Oh, I'm sure he did. I don't know.
They had been together for a really long time. And
yeah, but I mean, with all this stuff that was coming to him, like the surveillance video and then all this stuff like this, that, and the third, I believe this all might have been before the surveillance video came to him. But even still, law enforcement officers believe the Volkswagen was used to transport the remains of Gannon, and locations of the Volkswagen were unknown during that time period of 7:02 p.m. and the 28th to around noon the following day. So also on that following day, Letecia had a scheduled interview with our local law enforcement, and she arrived 2 hours late. I guess she thought she was going to a party or something. So she arrived 2 hours late, and she arrived in the Volkswagen, which was wet, and it appeared to have been, cleaned out and stuff. So video footage recovered from a car wash that showed a portion of her vehicle around 11:30 on the 29th, which matched raw data footage of the computer system. I guess they ran the GPS. You know what I mean? They checked the GPS in the car, and then it all came back that she was washing her car and stuff like that. So
right before she went to the police station.
She is one dumbass motherfucker. Mm-hmm. Why would you should have just washed your car your fucking self.
Mm-hmm. So the search of the Volkswagen revealed traces of blood on the rear of the vehicle, in the rear passenger seat, the front passenger seat, and near the glove box. Electronic data placed the Volkswagen in the area of Highway 105 in Douglas County on the evening of January 28th, which is where Gannon's blood was found. So the police think maybe that's where she was dumping his remains.
Again, the only reason you should be out on 105 in the evening, especially at that time of year, you better have a
Live out there.
valid point. Then that should be your valid point. Mm-hmm. Or you driving to or from the airport or something like that. If you just out there for a nice drive, there's no way. No way. So she arrived for her interview on the 29th after being evasive and refusing to speak with investigators. She drastically changed her initial story, which I mentioned earlier. She stated that she was held at gunpoint and raped by an Hispanic man named Eduardo, and that Gannon was abducted after he finished raping her. And she also said that he hit her in the head, which she then turned around blacked out. There was no evidence of her injury, and she refused a rape kit. And also, she's tried to straighten up where allegedly the assault took place, and she was straightening up the signs of like disturbances in Gannon's room, like trying to frantically clean up and stuff like that. That's what she was telling the police, which all is complete and utter bullshit. And she cleaned up the utility room, which she had a lot of time on her hands.
Mm-hmm. So, supposedly, if she had been attacked and raped, instead of, calling the police after the fact, she waited a couple hours and then decided to say that Gannon had run away. So, investigators reviewed neighborhood security cams, and there was no evidence of anyone entering her home other than her and Gannon. She said she met Eduardo on January 26th. She said Gannon had knocked over a candle and burned part of the carpet. And she got in her car and drove around to where there was a construction zone.
So, all right, Larson Ranch is a new
development.
Yeah, it's a new development. So there's a lot of people that just moved in, but there's also a lot of new construction going on out there too.
The houses aren't built yet.
Which is what I was doing.
Yeah. So she drove around and found Eduardo and asked if he would repair the carpet in her home, and he agreed. Allegedly.
So police reviewed the phone records during the alleged time period of the alleged rape, and Letecia had numerous phone activities such as outgoing phone calls, text messages, etc. No motion detected by the security system. It indicated that any incident occurred. Also, during the time of the alleged rape, the back door was open approximately 10 times, and a lot of motion was detected in the basement where Gannon was murdered.
So, towards the end of the interview, Letecia said that she wanted to leave. They seized her phone, and she was detained while they applied for a search warrant for her DNA. So at this point, she's panicking, and she started stuffing tissues in her pants and said that she was having chest pains and shortness of breath. Law enforcement requested medical assistance right away, and she had appropriate responses to paramedics' questions. Then she was transported to the hospital and via ambulance for further medical attention and was unresponsive to questions by medical personnel. But then when she got to the hospital, she had a miraculous recovery and was fine.
I'm curious to know what the hell was the whole stuff in the tissue in her pants for. If she was complaining about chest pains.
I don't know. I thought that was weird.
Yeah. So she signed herself out of the hospital before any exams were completed and left without telling any investigators, which is a huge red flag. So at a later date, law enforcement had searched the house many times, and eventually they found blood that had seeped through the carpet, stained concrete over 50 droplets of blood on the walls and near Gannon's bed, and blood on the mattresses. I believe there was blood like where the outlets were and stuff.
The initial report suggests that stains on the walls were consistent with one or more spatter-producing events. So it could have been a gunshot, it could have been stabbing, it could have been blunt force. There was no air bubbles in...
She ain't smart enough to get a silencer. They would have heard a gunshot out there.
Yeah, and they would have been able to see it in the house somewhere. So probably blunt force trauma or stabbing. There was no air bubbles in the stain, so it couldn't have been aspirated blood. The police also removed an electrical outlet cover near his mattress. It had a visible red stain outline, so that they said meant that there was enough blood to seep around the edges of the electrical outlet, which is awful.
Blood was also found in the utility room, which was, I believe, on the way towards her garage, if I'm not mistaken. In the dishwasher, there were multiple carpet brushes with carpet fibers on them. An empty gallon-sized container of vinegar was found in the home, which is used to pull blood out of stains and stuff like that. And the lab results corroborated that Gannon was killed in his bedroom. He was brought into the garage and then loaded into her Volkswagen Tiguan.
So, cell data shows that she disconnected her phone from cell phone towers on the evening of the 28th, which matches up with when she supposedly disposed of Gannon's body. Internet searches prior to the murder, she was searching for jobs in California and Florida. She was searching for 2-bedroom rentals in Florida. She went to a moving cost calculator. It seemed like she was looking to make an escape even before she allegedly killed Gannon.
She was already planning this.
Yeah.
So her search history also showed that clearly she was unhappy, and on February 13th, she stated to Al that Gannon was burned by a candle to the point that his skin had bubbled, and then he had peeled off the burns and wiped the blood on the bedroom walls. So that's where those stains and those spots came from. And mind you, she did all this without even being asked about the blood on the wall. She was basically at that point volunteering.
Trying to cover her ass.
She was trying to cover her ass, but she was volunteering unnecessary information.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And
at this point, the police had spoken with Al and requested to be able to record his conversations with Letecia, and he said yes. So on February 14th, Letecia stated 4 different stories to Al about what happened, all on the same day. So the first one was that when El Paso County Sheriff's Office came to the home on January 27th, the abductor was still in the house, and she tried to signal to them that there was someone in the house. But the Sheriff's Office checked the entirety of the house when they were looking for Gannon, and nobody was there. The second was that she was raped by Quincy Brown, who was a known wanted person in Colorado, and that
Never heard of him.
and that he abducted Gannon. The third one was that Quincy Brown followed her from the store and then at some point was laying in the middle of the road. She stopped to avoid running him over, and he jumped in the car and made her take him to her home and then raped her. The fourth lie that she told was that her and Gannon were near Highway 105 in Douglas County, which, again, she was never asked about. And
again, volunteering unnecessary information.
And that Gannon fell off his bike, hit his head, and was then abducted by Quincy Brown. So the law enforcement said that often when people lie, they leave portions of truth in there. So I think she was trying to make sense of everything and trying to make excuses for everything, and just ended up being all over the place.
She should have just shut up and waited for them to ask questions then.
Yep.
Nobody talks, everybody walks. I wonder where we heard that from.
Mama.
I know, she didn't see this. She's like, oh my God,
That's me!
shout out to Mom. Shout out to Frenchie gang. So she said that the stories she told him were lies because it was what she believed he wanted to hear. Which I mean, that's your husband, the father of your stepchild. So I don't know why you would lie just to tell him what he wants to hear in this situation.
Especially
it's not like he caught you cheating. You know what I mean?
Exactly. His son is missing.
So then she said that the blood in the corner of Gannon's room was a combination of both of their bloods, which again doesn't make sense because I don't believe that they found her blood in his room.
They didn't.
No, the abductor anally penetrated both of them in Gannon's room with an object
And then took Gannon. What the fuck?
Anyways, so on February 18th, Letecia, she called the number for a fake polygraph, which I'm not really sure how that works.
It's a website.
Yeah, but I'm not sure how that works. She has to be hooked up to a machine in order to be polygraph tested. You know what I mean? So she said they never gave him a confirmation test that she paid for. She called again later, and identified mail said her report was blocked by management based on the content that was in the questions, and with any illegal activity that they had to reserve the right to seize and report the report.
And to not send it to her.
Yeah.
Gannon's body was found in Florida. Letecia had left Colorado and driven with her daughter and ended up in South Carolina, where she was arrested and extradited. Authorities believe that she dumped Gannon's body on the way.
So Letecia attacked. Sorry, I don't mean to laugh. But after she was caught in South Carolina and she was being extradited back to Colorado, she was then attacked a prison transport official on the way back. And, the official had to be hospitalized in Kansas. And also, while she was incarcerated, she tried to have inmates help her plan an escape, which they then turned around and reported her, which even our inmates can't stand this bitch. So that right there should tell y'all something.
So she's undergone 2 psych evaluations and was found both times that she was competent to stand trial. They also at this point have her in isolation at the jail. Al has also since filed for divorce.
I don't blame him. And then also, just this week, this is how I know this trial's about to be crazy. Letecia fired her entire legal department, and she is going to represent herself in the trial, which starts in April. And boy, I cannot wait.
She said that she has an ace in the hole that's going to prove her innocence, which after hearing all of this, the case is ongoing.
With all this, y'all let us know in the comments.
Yeah. Do you think she's innocent? She's just being framed and set up, or do you think she did it?
And why? I want to know your whys too.
And
I will communicate back with y'all.
And if you don't think that she did it, I would love to hear why you don't think she did it. I'm not usually biased in these cases, and I don't usually get so worked up, but this is disgusting.
Yeah.
So
again, let us know what y'all think. We hope y'all enjoyed it, and we're glad to be back.
Yes.
Finally happy to be back on the camera and everything. So
We'll
make sure y'all hit we're going to
once
definitely,
the trial's over.
once it's not even just when the trial's over, we might do them in between. Depends on how it gets.
Yeah,
so let us know what y'all think. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe buttons, hit that notification button so y'all can get updated when we drop new videos, because we got a whole bunch more about to come at y'all. Thank y'all again. We miss y'all. We love y'all. Peace out. Hope y'all have a good day.
Bye.